Your assumptions are not abstract. They are physical. Right now, carved into the tissue of your brain, there are grooves, neural pathways that fire automatically, without your permission, every time you think about money, love, success, or your own identity. These grooves are not metaphor. They are not spiritual language dressed up in science. They are literal structures, and they are running your life. Neville Goddard says that consciousness is the only reality, that what you assume to be true becomes true, that the world is a mirror, and if you don't like what the mirror is showing you, you don't argue with the reflection. You change the one who is looking. But here is where almost everyone in this space goes wrong. They hear that teaching and they go to work on the surface. They repeat affirmations, they script, they visualize. They attempt to feel the wish fulfilled for 5 minutes in the morning, and then spend the other 23 hours reinforcing the exact pattern they are trying to overwrite. Not because they aren't trying, because they don't understand what they are actually dealing with. The assumption is not a thought. The assumption is a groove. And a groove does not change because you had a different thought once. A groove changes when you give the brain a new signal, consistently, precisely, and with the right internal conditions. The Mandukya Upanishad describes the mind as having 4 states of consciousness: waking, dreaming, deep sleep, and the 4th, Turiya, the witness behind all 3. What modern neuroscience is now mapping onto brain activity, the Vedic sages encoded in Sanskrit 3,000 years ago. The architecture of the mind is not new. What is new is our ability to work with it deliberately. This video is about how to do exactly that. Neville Goddard uses the word assumption in a specific way that most teachers flatten into something unrecognizable. When Neville says, assume the feeling of the wish fulfilled, the operative word is not feeling. The operative word is assume. To assume is to take on, to inhabit, to become, even before the external evidence arrives. It is not a performance, it is not pretending. It is the deliberate restructuring of what the self accepts as its baseline reality. In Sanskrit, this is called samskara, an impression left on the mind by repeated experience. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, describes how the mind carries these impressions the way water carries the shape of a riverbed. The water does not decide where to flow. The riverbed decides, and the riverbed was carved by everything that came before. Your samskaras, your neural grooves, are your hardwired assumptions. They are the impressions left by every repeated thought, every repeated feeling, every repeated conclusion you drew about who you are and what is available to you. When you think about money and you feel scarcity, that is a groove. When you think about love and you feel unworthiness, that is a groove. When you imagine success and something in you immediately contracts, that is a groove. And that groove fires before the conscious mind has time to intervene. It fires in milliseconds. It produces a feeling. That feeling produces a vibration. And that vibration, Neville's entire framework depends on this, is what the external world responds to. Not your intention, not your desire, your habitual vibration, your groove. This is why repetition alone does not work. If you affirm abundance while the groove of scarcity fires underneath the affirmation, the brain registers the contradiction, and in any contest between the stated intention and the felt assumption wins every single time, because the felt assumption is the samskara. It is older, it is deeper, it has momentum. The question is not whether you can create new samskaras. You can. The neuroscience on this is unambiguous. The brain retains neuroplasticity throughout life. The question is how. What are the specific conditions under which a new groove can be carved quickly, cleanly, and deeply enough to compete with the one that has been running for years? The brain has 2 hemispheres. This is common knowledge. What is less commonly understood is what happens when both hemispheres are activated simultaneously, when the left brain and the right brain are made to work in concert at the moment of a new impression. The left hemisphere processes language, sequence, logic, and labels. The right hemisphere processes imagery, emotion, spatial feeling, and the body's holistic sense of reality. In most people, these 2 systems operate in a kind of alternating rhythm. You think in words, left brain. You feel an emotion, right brain. You describe the emotion in words, left brain again. They hand the ball back and forth. When both hemispheres are activated simultaneously, something different happens. The impression being formed in that moment gets encoded across both systems at once. It lands deeper, it integrates faster. It has more structural stability than an impression formed through language alone or emotion alone. This is not a new discovery. The bilateral stimulation effect, the simultaneous activation of both hemispheres, is the neurological basis for EMDR therapy, one of the most effective trauma processing modalities in clinical psychology. It works for trauma not because it is manipulating the content of the memory, but because it changes the structural weight the brain assigns to it. It moves the memory from a high charge groove to a lower charge groove. The same mechanism runs in reverse. You can use bilateral activation not to diminish the charge on an old pattern, but to accelerate the charge on a new one. And this is where the practice becomes precise. The following process takes 2 to 3 minutes. Do it daily for 30 days minimum. Not because 30 days is a magic number, but because the samskara requires repetition to compete with what it is replacing. You are not doing this once. You are doing this until the new groove has enough depth to fire on its own. Here's the exact sequence. Close your eyes. Place your right hand flat against your forehead, palm touching skin. Place your left hand flat against the back of your head, palm against the scalp. Hold this position throughout the practice. In Vedic anatomy, the region behind the forehead corresponds to the Ajna chakra, the third eye, the seat of inner vision, imagination, and the witness consciousness. You are not doing this for energetic reasons alone. You are also creating a proprioceptive anchor, a physical gesture that the brain will learn to associate with the state you're about to enter. Over 30 days, the gesture itself begins to induce the state. The body becomes the signal. Now, bring your chosen manifestation into awareness, not as a list of things you want, as a specific textured sensory reality that already exists. Touch it in your mind. What is its surface? What sound does it carry? What quality of light is on it? What does it feel like in your body to be in proximity to this thing you now have? Spend 30 to 40 seconds here. Do not rush. Sensation is not decoration. It is the data the right hemisphere uses to evaluate whether an experience is real. You are communicating with the part of the brain that does not understand words. You are showing it evidence. Then speak out loud. State 5 specific physical characteristics of what you are manifesting. Not, I have a car. Name the car. Name the color. Name the interior. Name the year. Name the feel of the wheel in your hands. Neville Goddard is explicit about this. Vagueness is the enemy of assumption. The vague wish remains a wish. The precise, specific sensory assumption begins to restructure belief. Speak with authority, not with hope. Authority. The difference in the body is unmistakable. Then name the emotion. 1 to 4 words. Say them out loud. Feel them as you say them. Let the feeling rise into your face. Let it reach your chest. This is not performance. This is instruction. You are showing the left brain and the right brain simultaneously what to encode. Language plus sensation in the same moment. Then say this. This is my new truth. This is my new reality. Not as an affirmation you hope to one day believe. As a declaration of restructuring. You are telling the brain, formally, out loud, in both linguistic and somatic channels, that the old groove is no longer the dominant pattern. The new one is. Now, with your hands still in place, with the new impression still active in your mind, open your eyes and slowly move them to the right, then left, then right again, 10 to 15 repetitions. Keep your head still. Move only your eyes. This is bilateral activation. Both hemispheres are now engaged simultaneously. At the exact moment your new assumption is at its highest charge. You are locking the impression across both systems at once. Do not skip this step. This is the mechanism. Everything before it is preparation. This is where the groove is actually carved. The Bhagavad Gita, chapter 6, verse 5, contains a line that every Neville Goddard student should have memorized. Udarid atmanatmanam. Lift yourself by yourself. The self is its own friend. The self is its own enemy. Neville says it differently. He says, the world is a mirror. Change the assumption and the world must rearrange itself to reflect the new one. These are not metaphors. They are precise descriptions of a mechanism. You are not asking the universe to deliver something to you. You are restructuring the internal pattern that the external world is reflecting back. When the groove changes, the reflection changes. This is not hope. This is the actual sequence. What this practice demands. What separates the people who see results from the people who conclude that this doesn't work for them is one thing: the willingness to treat an internal shift as more real than the current external evidence. Neville calls this living in the end. The Vedas call it tat tvamasi, that thou art, not that thou shalt become, that thou art. The identity is restructured first. The reflection follows. For 30 days, 2 to 3 minutes per day, you are giving the brain a new groove to run. You are making the specific, sensory, emotionally charged assumption, and you are encoding it across both hemispheres simultaneously at maximum activation. This is not a visualization exercise. Visualization lives in the right hemisphere. This process reaches both. This is not an affirmation practice. Affirmations live in the left hemisphere. This process reaches both. Neville Goddard spent decades teaching that the imagination is not supplementary to reality, it is the cause of reality. The Mandukya Upanishad spent centuries teaching that the waking world is a projection of the deeper mind. Modern neuroscience is spending billions of dollars mapping exactly how the brain constructs the reality it then perceives as external. They all arrive at the same instruction: change what is happening at the level of the groove, not the level of the wish. The practice is the key. The 30 days are not optional, and the bilateral activation at the end is not a curiosity. It is what makes the rest of the practice structurally different from everything you have already tried. Start tonight. The 2 to 3 minutes you spend before sleep are the most neurologically potent window of the day, the hypnagogic threshold, the state Neville Goddard identified as the most direct access to the subconscious that waking consciousness has. The brain is already preparing to consolidate memory. Give it the memory you want consolidated. The groove you carve tonight is the world you wake up in tomorrow.